had a little bit of spare time, and I know I got some comments when I did ask for some feedback on forums and stuff, saying that people wanted me to be more beginner friendly with some videos and stuff like that. And I guess I'm not always gonna be the most beginner friendly person. Not saying I'm like some elitist super good Pokemon snob, and I don't really even think I'm like the greatest player ever or anything like that. Believe me, I know that I make my misplays, and I'm sure you guys have seen a couple in my live narrations and stuff, and all that jazz. But wanting to be more beginner friendly with some of my videos, this is a deck profile, and this is a deck profile of a deck that to a lot of you will look very familiar, especially around the Heart Gold Soul Silver to Black and White and into Emerging Powers. This deck was easily one of the best decks, one of the biggest contenders in those formats, and kind of fell off a little bit with Noble victories, but I still saw some play. It still had a lot of top cut finishes. It was finishing like fourth a lot and stuff like that. But this is Reshiphlosion. I figure this is a good deck for beginners to do a deck profile for because it's a pretty straightforward deck, and it's just a really nice deck. So this is kind of my setup. I'm just kind of operating out of playtcg.me, and we're going to see how this works. It's pretty impromptu, but if you refresh your page, it'll put your deck back in order. That's a good tip in case you ever have to refresh. Make sure you tell your opponent you're doing so and then shuffle your deck, because otherwise you're going to draw, either your whatever you put in first Pokemon-wise. But so to start this thing off, we'll look at Reshiram, who is the main attacker of the deck. So let's look at Reshiram, and I guess I'm going to have to move this to the side. I didn't really know how this works, but guess we'll move the card viewer here, and we can move this here, maybe a little bit more, so we can get Clef in there and all. But Reshiram is really bulky basic, was unheard of at the time he came out around Black and White, but 130 HP is very nice. He's got a 2 retreat cost, which is a little high, but not too bad when you look at the fact that we're playing an energy acceleration deck. He's also got a water weakness, which is still pretty darn good in terms of weaknesses. Kyurem wasn't a threat when he was really popular, but so Kyurem made this guy fall off a little bit, but a lot of people are saying that Kyurem will fall off with these giant EXs and Eviolites because Kyurem can't do anything to them. So if we look at Reshiram's attack, his first one for 2 colorless energy does 20 plus a number of damage counters on him. Outrage is a really good attack, capped off at 140 potentially. It's really, really powerful. Comes in handy a lot, but it's definitely not your main attack. Blue Flare is your main attack. 2 fire and a colorless is a fairly expensive retreat or attack cost, but again, we're playing energy acceleration, and you have to discard 2 fire, but our energy acceleration is actually through the discard, so discarding energy means almost nothing to us. So it does 120 damage. It's a pretty good damage cap. You're attacking with a basic. It's definitely one of the best parts of this deck is that your main attacker is a basic. Now let's look at the other star of the deck, which is Typhlosion. So if we look at Typhlosion, he's got 140 HP for a stage 2, which is pretty nice. Just breaks the 130 range that has been the golden number for a while, or was the golden number. Probably no longer is with the X's out now. But he's got a 2 retreat cost, just like Reshiram does. Water weakness, same thing. His first attack has the same energy cost as well, which is fire, colorless. It does 70 damage, which isn't that great, but you also both discard an energy, which is nice for certain matchups, stuff like Ross, different kinds of stuff. Energy denial of your opponent can be really nice, and you discarding energy doesn't really matter if you read as a Pokepower. Afterburner lets you take an energy from your discard, a fire energy specifically, and attach it to one of your Pokemon, and they take a damage counter. The damage counters can feed Reshiram's Outrage, or you can just Blue Flare, which is probably preferred. Damage counter placement and afterburning, sometimes you have to be a little bit careful about it, but a lot of the times you can get away with little misplays, and that's one of the reasons this deck is great for beginners. It's pretty straightforward, and you use Blue Flare and sometimes Outrage, and occasionally Flare Destroy if you really have a complicated matchup. But those are pretty much the things you're going to do. So let's look at a few of the techs. And also, I should have been going over lines. We're running 3 Reshiram as your main attacker. He's a basic. He's easy to search out. We're running a 4-2-4 of Typhlosion because we want to get him out and multiple of him out and as fast as possible. So we're just running basically the full line. 4-2-4 is pretty standard if you want to run a really thick line of a Pokemon. So that's nice. And we'll get into why 4-2-4 in a second. But then we've got our other attackers. I put in a Mewtwo. Mewtwo has been hyped as one of the best cards in the format. Mewtwo is weak to Psychic. He's got 170 HP, which is ginormous, but he's also worth 2 prizes. Keep that in mind. 2 retreat cost is okay. His second attack we're never going to use because we don't run Psychic. His first attack, X-Ball, does 20 times the number of energy between the 2 active Pokemon, yours and your opponent's. This is really nice because Mewtwo is weak to Psychic. Not that Mewtwo really does that well against this deck, but he can just come in handy. He can also be great against truth matchups and stuff like that. You can get a ton of energy on him on the bench, and then he can just kind of bust through, those big, bulky walls. And he can take prizes against Mewtwo X's himself very quickly, so it's just a nice card if you need to take those prizes quick. The other secondary attacker we're running is Terrakion. This is kind of something I'm doing a little bit on my own originally. I haven't seen it too much. I've seen it before. I'm not saying I'm the inventor, but it's a little uncommon. Terrakion is for the Magnezone matchup, as well as the Zekrom EX matchup. Both those cards give you a lot of trouble. They can both one-shot either Reshiram or Typhlosion, which is probably a lot worse. But they're both weak to fighting. If you look at Terrakion's first attack, Retaliate does 30 plus 60 more if your Pokemon, your active, was knocked out last turn by their attack. So 90 damage times 2 for weakness is 180. Easily kills Magnezone no matter what, unless they've got 3 defenders, which should never happen. And it doesn't kill Zekrom EX, unfortunately, if he has Eviolite on. But I didn't really have space for plus power, so we're just going to have to deal with that. It's really nice. I like it a lot. It's kind of a fat, bulky starter, but you can get past that. The other Pokemon we're running is our consistency booster, our savior, which is Cleffa. Cleffa has 30 HP. He's very weak. He's got no weakness, resistance, or retreat cost, though, which is fantastic. His Pokebody lets him prevent damage done to him when he's asleep, and his attack costs no energy. Shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 6, and you're asleep. So you can prevent damage to yourself, and you also get 6 new cards. That's as strong as a supporter. It's basically Pont as an attack. It's fantastic. Easily one of the most important cards in this deck. For Trainer Supporter Stadiums, we're going to run 4 Pokemon Collector. If you don't know what this card does, it is the staple of the format. Search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon, show them to your opponent, put them in your hand, shuffle your deck afterwards. It's fantastic. It's just so good for setup, and you need it for a Stage 2 deck like this. So we run 4 of it. We want to see it turn 1. It's very important. Sage's Training is another really nice supporter in this deck. You get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and discard 3 and take 2. It seems like you're losing a lot of cards, but mind you want to get energy in the discard fast, so you can use Afterburner. You don't want to have to manually attach all 3 energy to Reshiram and then be able to Blue Flare. That's not really how this deck works. Hopefully you want to be Blue Flaring turn 2, if things go well. So this is a really strong draw card, helps you get your Typhlosions up, discards your energy, serves a dual function. Really great in this deck. I run 4 of this card as well. N is my favorite card in the game right now, and this one it's just ridiculous. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck and draws cards equal to the remaining prizes. You can live off the field with this deck really well. You don't need a lot of cards in your hand. You can just afterburner the energy you need, and so you can be pretty much set, and you don't mind going down to 1 or 2 cards in the really late game, but there are a lot of decks where your opponent will really be in dire straits if you do that to them. So N is a very good card for swinging games around. Huge comebacks can come from it. You can regain board control, prize leads, maintain your prize lead. You can just do so much with this card, and I run 3 of it, and it's fantastic. And then we run the 2 of Juniper. Juniper is the strongest draw card in the game, in my opinion. Discard your hand, draw 7. So if you're loaded with fire energy, you can draw a ton. It just helps you set up really fast. It's really powerful. You got to be careful when you play it, so we're only running 2 of it, but it's really nice. On to our trainers. We're going to run 4 Pokemon Communication. If you don't know about this card, it basically is take a Pokemon from your hand into your deck, and 1 into your deck into your hand. You can get out your Typhlosions this way. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. You get out what you need. It's a trainer. You can still play your supporter and rerun 4 of it because it boosts consistency so much. If you don't have the collector, you can communicate with your Cleffa and Eek and try and get set up. It's fantastic. Going to run 4 Rare Candy. Rare Candy is the reason we're running a 4-2-4 line of Typhlosion, and it basically lets you skip the stage 1, in this case Quilava, and just go to Typhlosion. So this speeds up evolution. You don't have to take 2 turns evolving basic to stage 1 and stage 1 to stage 2. You just go basic to stage 2. Makes evolving so much easier, and you need it in any stage 2 deck, so we're running 4 of it. We run a lot of trainers, and we like discarding fire energy, so we're going to run 3 Junk Arm to reuse those trainers, as well as discard our fire energy when we need to. Pokemon Catcher is another straightforward card. We want to disrupt our opponent's setup and basically maintain board control by killing the most important things on their field. So we play 3 Pokemon Catcher to knock out specific cards. Rocky Helmet is another counter to things like Magnezone and Zekrom EX, and getting around those Eviolites, or just getting the 20 extra damage you need. If they attack you and you have this card attached, it's a Pokemon tool, then they take 2 damage counters. So just getting over the damage hump is really nice, and this card does that. Next, we run 1 Pokegear. Pokegear is a consistency booster. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. If there's a supporter, you can take it and put it in your hand. It's junk armable. It's really nice. It's like running an extra supporter, sort of, but it's got extra benefits. I really like it in this deck. I run it as a 1-of, but some people run more. Running a Switch. Hopefully you know what Switch does. It switches your active and when you're benched. We run Terrakion, and Terrakion's a fatty, so we need a Switch. And it's nice for Typhlosions and conserving Afterburners too. Lastly, we run a Super Rod, and Super Rod is to regain Typhlosion lines, regain Terrakion for the matchups he's needed for, maybe Mewtwo EX if we need him, as well as the fighting energy we run in this deck because we can't Afterburn it. So then the last parts of this deck are the fire energy that we run and the fighting energy. Fire energy goes for Reshiram, and we run 9 of it. We can recycle it, so we don't really have to worry about count. And 3 for Terrakion. He only really needs 1 fighting energy, maybe 2 if you want to start land crushing. So we don't need that many. But so that's the deck. It's a pretty fun deck. It's not too hard to play, so try it out yourself. You can tinker with my list, or start from scratch and make your own, or you can net deck this, and totally okay. Whatever you feel comfortable with. Anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure if you want to leave a like, a comment, subscribe to me. You could favorite this video. Whatever you want to do. It's all cool with me. I love bringing you guys content. Hopefully, I'll be bringing you more soon. Thanks for watching.